All right, so I think that I'll just get started. And yeah, welcome to the webinar. My name is Sergio, and the way that this works is basically if you have any questions during the presentation, you're more than welcome to jump in or just ask in the chat, whatever you feel more comfortable with. And basically, we will talk a little bit about the usage of augmented reality, mostly in marketing context, but also we'll dive deeply into social media augmented reality. We'll look a little bit closer into what are the possibilities of the platform, and also how can you distribute these effects and these filters throughout Instagram and Snapchat. So yeah, I'll just start by introducing myself a little bit more. Or this is actually the agenda for the day. So we'll start out like with the pretty basics, like what is AR, how do we see AR, like what type of AR experiences can you build, and how can you distribute them like on a hardware basis. And yeah, then we'll have some time for Q&A if you need anything, and if you think anything about anything in the end. All right, so my name is Sergio. I come from Portugal, and I moved to Copenhagen 5 years ago to study in brand communication management at CBS. That's where I first encountered virtual reality. I had to write a thesis on advertising and new technologies. And at the time, everybody was talking about virtual reality, how it was coming, and it was going to be revolutionary. And my first VR experience was this one that you can see over here, which is basically this experience from Target. So I was this one day at the library, swiping through Facebook, and suddenly I see this link saying that Target had just released a new virtual reality campaign. I click on it, I'm thrown into YouTube, and suddenly I see these mariachis playing a song, and at the same time, like with the phone, I could just simply like tilt around, and then I could see the surroundings. So it was quite revolutionary at the time, because it sort of felt that my phone became this magical window to this other world. So it made me want to explore this a little bit further. So at the time, there wasn't many players within the virtual reality and augmented reality field, but in Copenhagen, like KHORA was just starting up. It's basically started up as a shop in the Meatpacking district. Now it works like as a showroom and an arcade, but the principle is still the same, to make virtual reality accessible to people. So even if you're just walking down from the street and you want to try out virtual reality, if you've never done it before, you're welcome to come in and just have a go at it. So the shop is located in the Meatpacking district, and besides the arcade and showroom functions, the core business actually lies in content production. So we're creating virtual reality and augmented reality productions for multiple industries, and we're working within. We've done a lot of content for marketing purposes, for healthcare, for tourism, for museums, and so on and so forth. So it's basically just a different world of possibilities. And yeah, so we're just trying to explore how can this bring value to clients. Now, I'm just going to throw a question at you, and hopefully now you're going to be able to see a poll right in front of you that you'll be able to just answer. This is something that I do just to test out like the audience and see what they. Okay, perfect. So before today, you have tried VR AR before. All right, so yeah, that's good to know. I don't know if you're on the pro area or on the user kind of area. I don't know if you're building these, but I'm just gonna. But usually this workshop is mostly for the user area, so so that you know like how do we think about these technologies and how they're being applied, and taking a look into inspirations for different use cases. So there's no need to know about coding in here, but yeah. So I think the way that we start is always by starting with a quick definition. I won't go too much into depths about it because, I mean, you've tried AR, you know what it does, and it's basically at KHORA we take this as the sort of digital layer that we have on our current vision. So if I was wearing a headset like the lady here in the picture, I could be, for example, being able to see my surroundings. I could see the world around me. I could see my bookcase over here. But I could, whenever I looked at the picture over there of the octopus, I could, for example, start seeing a flying octopus here in my living room. So so it is something. So it's more about like enhancing the world around us. A lot of people still have this sense that virtual reality and augmented reality are somewhat the same, and even though that they draw some similarities, and for example, augmented reality draws some elements from VR, they're not the same, because virtual reality means that your senses are completely engulfed into this other world, and that you're basically taken away from this reality and thrown into somewhere else. So in a way, we talk about this as being a teleportation machine. And if you want to make it a little bit more into practical terms, we can think about virtual reality as taking us into the internet, and augmented reality as taking the internet into our world. So it's a very oversimplified explanation about VR and AR, but it could help distinguish a little bit of what both are. Now, diving a little bit more into the technical aspects, like these are the 3 different types of augmented reality experiences. I don't know which one exactly have you tried before, but perhaps you've tried them all. But very simply put, like image tracking. All right, perfect. So you tried this one. Just to deconstruct a little bit of what this is. So basically, like the camera of your phone can capture a highly contrasted image, or this can be QR code or an image or a painting, and then overlay a 3D animation on top of it. I mean, you've seen this already. So this is an example of how it's being used out there. So this is an example from a museum in Ontario, Canada, where they had this exhibition where they handed out these iPads to the visitors, and these iPads were loaded with an app. And whenever the visitors pointed the camera of the iPad to a painting, then it sort of like triggered an animation on top of that painting. So it was meant to show like this other digital side of these paintings that we're seeing over here, and enhancing the whole visitor experience. One thing that it's important to highlight is that, as you might have tried it before, like with the image tracking, the image needs to be sort of always in frame, so that the camera needs to be always seeing the image in order to overlay the animation on top of it. So it's somewhat of a limitation, but it's still by far like one of the best ways to provide augmented reality and to lock this experience into something, into our real world. Then we have world tracking AR. So this is basically Google and Apple. They've developed SDKs. These are software development kits that allow us to build apps that can simply detect, for example, floors. So it detects floors, detects surfaces like tables. And what this allows you to do is to overlay like 3D elements on top of it. So so it knows, your phone sort of knows where the floor ends and what's your position in regards to that end, and it then is able to calculate where should you place the 3D model and rescale it accordingly. So a really good example of this is the Ikea Place app that was that allows you to browse through the product catalog of Ikea, and then you're able to place the 3D models around. So you can see for product visualization, this can be quite strong, and it can allow you to see how different furniture will look like in real life. So the key aspect of this, and the biggest hurdle of it, is that the tracking is not 100% perfect, not as perfect as when it comes to image tracking. So you cannot always rely on it being like on a one-to-one scale. So it can still give you a pretty good representation of what these how these products will look like on your living room, for example, but it's not a one-to-one ratio. That's something that it's important to highlight here. And the next example is using face tracking. So you have, these are the most commonly used on augmented reality filters on social media. So essentially you have a face, like your camera detects a face, and then it overlays an AR experience on top of it. So this is an example from McDonald's where they created a game and distributed it through Snapchat, for example. Now this is where it becomes interesting as well, which is in the distribution part of this. So how can you get your filter across? So we have all of these different, we'll go around these 5 different distribution processes and distribution models, but we'll dive a little bit deeper into the social media ones later on. So first of all, like headset-based augmented reality. For me, this is like one of the best ways to experience augmented reality, because it's something that's a lot, it makes the experience a lot seamless. So the whole fact where the whole experience of, for example, grabbing a 3D object and like moving it around like naturally with your hands, and the whole fact that you're walking around and you're not holding and having to see the whole AR experience through the phone, it makes a huge difference, even though that might look something similar and just a nerdy thing. The fact is that these headsets, they're also completely designed to map out your space a lot better. So they're equipped also with spatial sensors and infrared sensors to allow much better tracking, and in order to hold the 3D models into the world. And the fact that you're also capable of walking around and interacting in a much more natural way and allows your hands to be free. This is, for example, how it's being used by NASA. So you have NASA that it's taking the Microsoft HoloLens into the International Space Station and having astronauts perform reparations inside of the International Space Station while still wearing this device. So they can see like a 3D overlay of a step-by-step instruction on what sort of things they need to do. So yeah. The really problem of this is that even though that it might be like the holy grail of AR experiences, it's still something that it's quite expensive to get. So headsets like these, they cost around like $3,500. So you cannot expect that that a normal company or even a consumer is going to be able to get these, to get their hands on one of these. So so this is mostly being used by big companies on research and development projects, such as this one from NASA, for example. Now, there are other ways of distributing augmented reality filters, augmented reality experiences, and one of them is also standalone AR screen. What I mean by this is basically having just a TV screen with a computer in the back and a camera attached to it, and it's capable of overlaying 3D models right on that camera feed right away. So so it can add, so nobody else needs to have like their own phone or their own glasses. A simple, for example, bus shelter could do. This is an example from Pepsi Max, where they have remodeled an entire bus shelter and created this augmented reality experience and campaign around it to create more brand awareness. So this explains very much what I was explaining before. So.
Let me flip this script. I feel privileged for all who can witness this. I am close to divine. Though the moment is mine, the moment of sign. To all the squares that ask around, we getting it. My skills pay me. Trying to get a million, baby, with an adopted flow that God gave me. Tell whoever runners that they spot is temporary till I
think I got that one.
Tell Miss I'm on my wealth tip. So when we cash out soon, I'm just investing.
I'm telling you, this is how it works, man. There's a little camera right here.
So I really like this commercial because this type of content, because it's really driving potential stories. So people, when they see this type of content, they have this sort of experience that they are not expecting. They simply can't help themselves but, for example, take a video or take a photo and just share this with their peers. So it has a lot of that good, and it was actually able to get a lot of views and also a lot of shares and a lot of PR coverage on it. So that's why, for me, like it's still pretty cool. But something like this you could achieve, for example, at the trades fair show, where, for example, you have a camera pointed out to all the visitors that are passing by your booth, and because this is sort of Easter time, everyone could get, for example, their own pair of bunny ears, like walking around, and make it look funny and goofy. But the point is, like, that you can create these type of experiences and play around with the surroundings as well. So the next form is web AR. What we mean by this is instead of having the experience being distributed through an app, the experience is distributed through a URL link. And right from that link, you can just simply access that experience. Even though this might be like the most ideal form of creating experiences, augmented reality experiences, and it can actually fall short technically, because this is something that is still pretty much like under development. So, and what I mean by this is that it's still quite a very limited platform. So when you're building web AR experiences, you need to keep into consideration that, for example, the compatibility of the phones, that it might not work with every single device that you send this AR experience to. Also in terms of browser compatibility, because only a certain kind of browsers are capable of running these experiences. At the same time, like since it also consumes like a lot of real-time data transmission, you're gonna be looking like the 3D models that you're gonna be able to experience, they're gonna be very limited. And at the same time, you're gonna be able to experience a much more limited tracking experience. So with that said, there are a few services out there that I think that where this works out quite well. Like you have, for example, these plugins, for example, for e-commerce shops, such as Viden, where they've started to create these augmented reality integrations for sunglasses companies, where it allows you to virtually try on different sunglasses apparels. Another example of this is through furniture shops. We're also starting to incorporate this there. So even though that distribution-wise, like it's perhaps like one of the most ideal forms of getting the experience across, it might not be the most ideal technical wise. And then this brings us to native apps. So native apps, these are apps that we built using Unity, and then we can distribute them through Google Play Store or the iOS Store. Now, with these native apps, we can simply we can simply create an augmented reality experience and take a lot more resources out of the phone in a much more effective way. And so basically you can create a much better tracking experience and a much better 3D model that you can experience in there. So that's, so basically you can take better advantages of the resources of the phone. The problem here is the distribution, because in terms of being able to experience these, you need to download an app. And that's already like a big barrier for many people. So yeah, it's a little bit of a trade-off situation. But for example, when you're talking about like distributing this internally inside of a company, we've worked on this project, for example, for Coloplast, where we developed this this app that works with this QR code. So basically, all of their sales representatives, they have this app installed on their phones. Like we're talking about like over 400 people globally, and they have this QR code stickers that when they go out on meetings, for example, with the head of purchase of a hospital, they simply put on this QR code on their hand, open up the app on their phone, point the camera to it, and suddenly they see they get like this 2 centimeter deep wound. So besides just doing the stomy bags, they also create these band-aids that act on deep wounds. So since you cannot just simply lift up a band-aid and see how it's actually acting upon a deep wound, we've created this augmented reality experience that gives you that shows you exactly like the insides of it and how the band-aid is acting upon the wound. And then you're also able to shift between like regular solutions and their solutions, so you can see the comparison. But basically what's very unique about them is that it starts to absorb all the pus, and this is something that you cannot see with your in reality unless you lift it up. So yeah, the problem this is actually a really good way to getting and communicating the product benefits across in a much more engaging way and intuitive way. All right, and next we have social media AR. So these were the main points. Like I don't know if you have any questions or about any of the ones before. Otherwise, we'll just jump right into AR filters for social media. Okay, what would be the best way to interact with a broad audience? It depends on the like you said in an app. is asking people to download. Okay. Yeah. So I think like when it comes to interacting with a broad audience, I think it always depends like on the type of concept that you have behind and what kind of creative you have. Because for me, like when you're trying to interact with a broad audience, perhaps like social media filters like might be the trick, because you don't need to install any app. Like most likely you already have these apps installed, like both Facebook and Instagram, and the experiences that you can get them, they're pretty good already. The downside of it is that like most of these experiences you will see, like they're mostly like designed to be like for 15 seconds around there. But if you're, for example, a big company and you're talking about like creating something like for internal use, then for example asking your employees to download an augmented reality app on their phone like might not be too much of a stretch. But yeah, like for massive usage and reaching out to a broader audience, like the best of both worlds, sort of like it still has its downfalls, unfortunately. Like, but I would still say that social media like opened up a lot of new doors for this. So yeah. So should we just jump into it? Cool. All right. So AR filters. Last September from 2019, we've had Instagram that has opened up their platform for anyone to publish augmented reality filters. This is a little bit of a game changer because as I said before, like perhaps like most people are deterred of trying an augmented reality experience because they have to download an app, but they might not be so deterred like if the app is already installed on their phones, such as for example Instagram, and suddenly they're just sent a link and they're asked to click on it and then they try it out. When they see an ad on Facebook, they're able to try it out. So this is a little bit of a game changer. So in the social media space, like these three brands are the ones where you can publish, where you can create augmented reality filters and publish on them right away. TikTok also enables this type of like this type of augmented reality filters. The problem is that in order to develop for TikTok, it's they're still locked down when it comes to developing for their platform, like because they only allow like certain countries to be able to do it, and also the distribution model is still like they're still building this, so it's not yet super clear, but it is also a possibility, but yeah, it's not yet possible in Denmark at least. All right, so yeah. So we're basically just going to focus on Snapchat and Facebook here. And the first thing that you need to know is sort of like the main differences between these platforms. So first of all, like on Snapchat, they call them augmented reality lenses. And on Facebook and Instagram, they call them augmented reality filters or augmented reality effects. Now, just for the sake of simplifying everything, we'll just call them all augmented reality filters for the rest of the webinar. But it's just in case you want to dig deeper into documentation and so on, like these are the terms that these platforms use. So another difference here is in terms of the usage of the platform that they use in order to build, so the engines. And this is Snapchat uses Lens Studio and Spark AR, and sorry, Facebook and Instagram uses Spark AR. This is important to distinguish because, for example, if you're building a filter that it's being meant, for example, for that you want to be distributed both for Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram, then you need to keep in mind that when you're building for Snapchat, for example, if you're building a filter on Snapchat, you cannot simply just copy paste it into Facebook or Instagram, and it's done. You can publish it right away. Of course, that you can reuse some models from the Snapchat filter, but there might be a lot of work that you need to reprogram as well afterwards. So, for example, interactions and so on, like you might need to reprogram all of that later on. So, so this might have an impact on the budgets as well. So if you want to do it on Facebook and Instagram, or if you want to do it on Snapchat, or if you want to do it on both. So usually what we do is like, we give half price off of like putting it on both platforms, sort of. So yeah. So this is the time to test them, to test these filters out. I'm just gonna keep asking you perhaps like every now and then, like if you're able to try this out. So just let me know if it's working, and or if you need some help, like I can try and troubleshoot it. Cool. So we'll start off with the first link, and of course that I had to start with a funny filter because it's social media. And basically this, if you've been around like internet culture and if you're familiarized with it, these four coffin men like have been dominating this the internet lately with a bunch of memes. And this filter was created like last week. That this filter allows you to, for example, take away your face from the camera feed and then put it on 3D characters. So the whole world was 3D generated, but yeah, but it can still, basically you're taking away some elements from real life and placing it into this 3D world. So that was like the technique that I wanted to highlight here. But also the reason why I wanted to point out this filter out is because this is, as I said before, like this was released last week, and in just one day of being out there, since it has a lot of cultural, like internet culture behind it, it's like culturally relevant for the internet. This filter got 216 million impressions, 16 million captures. This is like the number of times that someone took a video or a photo of this filter. And then it got like over 4 million sharings. So someone took a video and shared it with people using this filter. So this is quite wacky, and it's showing also how these filters can have this big scale and how massively they are being used as well. Were you able to try it out? Perfect. All right, super. The second one though is, yeah, it's this filter where it's being mostly used for digital art. So you have a lot of different artists that are focusing now on creating, for example, augmented reality filters, and this one in particularly, I find it quite creative and quite cool because it's also like just under these 15 seconds, and you can get this whole experience of history, sort of. So once again, it's like in terms of the platform, it's taking your face and putting it on a 3D model. But the cool thing, this is also like a hidden gem, is when you're reaching out to become a human, you can actually like scroll, like keep swiping, and then you'll see that the character will rotate and will be flying towards a face. That face is you, and this is showing, and whenever you open up your mouth, like it will trigger some lightning effects. So and this is the part where I find it pretty cool because it's more than an Easter egg. It's also showing you how you can use these platforms to trigger events. For example, just with your face. It could be, yeah, It could be just like, for example, with blinking, but in this case, it's opening up the mouth. Some cases you can do frowning and kissing, for example, to the camera, and that can start an event. So also some other things that you can do is nodding up and down or to the sides, and that can do something on the filter. So so these functions are being tracked, and but can be tracked by the camera, and can use them to incorporate it and build it on the filter. Now, the next one is also related to digital art, and it's this guy called Chris Pelk. And for me, like, I think that it works out. It's one of the coolest effects that I've seen out there. Even though it's like very, very simple, it creates this sort of like army of one kind of effect. And more than that, like you are starting to see people using these for creating music videos and just goofing around. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But what's important to understand about this filter is that you can see one possibility of these engines is that you can create this background segmentation effect. So basically a green screen effect, and you can get that image and then replicate it across the screen. This could also work out, for example, with just lips or eyes or nose, for example, and just like put a bunch of eyes and noses like everywhere, and just make it like quite a wacky filter. So yeah, but going back to the music video, you have also a lot of artists that are starting to use augmented reality filters for their music videos. This is an example from Mark Ronson, but I know that the guy from Maroon 5, he also started doing that. But very briefly, it's yeah, you have this case of Mark Ronson starting out this starting to create this music video for his new single, and he also asked his followers to take videos singing the lyrics of certain parts of the song and using augmented reality filters. So I'm liking this part because it's like it's transforming these filters and giving them like a little bit more of pop cultural relevance to it. So yeah. Making them be something more than just like a funny little gimmick. Now, you also have like fashion retailers starting to use this. For example, this is an example that we used at Fly Copenhagen, where we wanted to test out, to create the possibility of testing out like one of their sunglasses models directly on their Instagram page. Now, when you look into what Facebook's strategy is, they're pretty much walking towards making these platforms into marketplaces, both Instagram and Facebook. So it makes more sense for brands and e-commerce shops to be able to allow people to virtually try on, especially now with the whole quarantine situation that we have going on. It becomes a little bit more relevant for people to be able to try these out like through at home, because the shops are closed. So yeah, this is an example that we used there at Fly Copenhagen, and they then use this to create Facebook augmented reality ads, which we will talk about like later on. But yeah, another example of other brands using this on face filters and for eyewear is, for example, this one from Gucci, where they've started to use this to bring attention to one of their new eyeliners. So as I said before, like one of the key features of these platforms is that they're really good at tracking your face and modifying it. So things like eyelashes or even eyebrows or lips, or for example creating blushes, like this is also they can do a pretty good job at it. It might not be like, might not look super realistic as or super good looking, as you see here on this picture of me. But the really cool part about it is that besides the just like the virtual try on, I really like this effect from Gucci because it added something else, like having this Inspector Gadget kind of hand, just like putting you some makeup. I think that it shows you a little bit of what, like gives you some extra thing to talk about or to share, instead of just like put a lipstick here or put some blush and it's done. Yeah, so this one, for example, you have, yeah, so you can see that you have these cosmetic brands that can actually start working a little bit more with these platforms, and especially lips. I think that works quite well to change the colors. So yeah, the next example, we're going to go into Snapchat. So just going to try and exemplify it here if you've never tried Snapchat before. So when you open up Snapchat, you're going to see like the camera feed over here. Hopefully you can see it. And then you want to, okay, perfect. Have you used it to track QR codes before, like snap codes? Okay, so in order to scan QR codes, or snap codes as they called on Snapchat, you're going to do this. Like you can see here on the picture of my screen, on my presentation, I have like this yellow code over here, and once you're capturing it, you're going to press and hold the button here, like the finger. Oh, sorry. Press and hold the screen, and suddenly some music notes coming out of it, and then it's going to ask you to unlock the filter. So then you're going to be able to unlock the filter and try it out. All right. What if you try and follow the link? Link number 6. All right, perfect. So this is an example from Adidas, where they've used it to promote their new sneakers that they were launching in France, and it goes a little bit more. Adidas is also like quite a very cultural brand. And that's why, for example, they are appealing a little bit more to this dancing culture in France. I think like also a little bit towards the more hip hop-ish culture in there. But and this is where, for example, that's why you can see like the dancing shoes in your floor, for example. So you should be able, after you scan this and after the code unlocks the filter, you want to use the back camera, point it to the floor, and then tap on the floor, and then the experience should work. You should be able to see the dancing shoes there. So one thing that you cannot see on the filter now, because they deactivated it, is that when the campaign was active, they were capable of, there was actually like a URL link, like that you could click on, that was sitting right on top of the capture icon. So basically you could click on that link and go directly to the Adidas website and purchase the sneakers right away. So it was a pretty nice tie-in feature calling for action. Were you able to try it out? Perfect. Super. All right. The next one is going to be a little bit tricky. Sometimes like people have some problems here, but yeah. Sorry, question. We have a question. Okay, so the Adidas, is that an image tracking AR feature or QR? Exactly. So when it comes to Snapchat, when you're publishing an augmented reality filter, we'll cover that later on. Every filter has this QR code, which they call it the snap code. So the app, the Snapchat app, is already developed to scan these types of codes. So we don't have to program this part at all on the app. So this is like just a natural effect. So in reality, like this is just how the app naturally works. So in reality, for me, I just consider this a world AR effect, because that's just part of the natural features of Snapchat. Does it make sense? Cool. But I'll show you later in the end, like the background of publishing on Snapchat and how you get, for example, the code and so on. So yeah. Moving on, we had the next link is going to take you to the Balmain page. So Balmain, they're a fashion brand, and they've just released a new bag, and they created an augmented reality filter for it. So if you follow the link, you're going to be able to see this. You're going to be taken to the Balmain main page on Instagram, and you want to look out for this this smiley effect, like the smiley icon. So this is like the AR filters icon on Instagram. So if you click on it, were you able to see it? If not, you should just restart the app and then try it out again. Usually that does a trick. Link number 7. Yes, in the email. Perfect. So you want to look out for this filter, like this smiley icon with the little sparks on the top. Okay, so if you can't find it, all right, perfect. We got there. So once you click on it, they're going to have like 3 different filters. You want to click on one of them and just give one a try. The reason why I wanted to highlight this is because they're launching a new line of bags, and they've created these filters to let you have a look at how these bags look in real life. Now, for me, this is a little bit of a hit and a miss, because even though that you can see the design of the bags and how they look, often when someone is out there in the market for looking into how these bags really look like, they want to know the size of it. So a key feature of this is I think that it's missing out. So if you place this, so the problem with forward tracking or world tracking augmented reality on social media, but this also happens a little bit into the native apps, although not so much, but anyways, it might happen. On social media, it's a little bit more prone to this. So it doesn't distinguish if the surface that you're figuring out is that you're controlling, if this is a table or if this is the floor. So the phone doesn't distinguish that. So if you want to place a bag, if you want to see a bag, where would you place it? Would it be on top of a table, or would it be on the floor, or would it be on your courtyard? So in order for you to understand like the real size measurements of this bag, I think that it can be quite challenging. So for me, that's why I think that it's a little bit of a hit and a miss. Now, however, the next link from Ikea, I think that even though that, like, when you're out shopping for furniture, like the size should matter. I still think that this was done in a much better way, because like you know instantly that the size, like that these wardrobes, like they're meant for placing on the floor. So first of all, you're not gonna, for example, try to place this furniture on your table. Second of all, like the wardrobe, here, like they want to highlight the functionality of it and the flexibility of it. So that's why, for example, you see all like the whole wardrobe changing and the function of it like changing around. So for me, like they're highlighting this product attribute much better. So that's why it works. And without like with disregarding the whole problem with the floor tracking and the real size one-to-one measurement. Another thing that I think that it works out quite well is, for example, fires. This is an example where we used for LB Forsikring, which is an insurance company here in Denmark, and we've created this filter that allows you to place a fire in your surroundings, and then suddenly you get like this foam that can put out the fire instantly. So that's what they wanted to highlight, and the fact that the fire can start on your desk, on your floor, on your living room, on your courtyard, it really doesn't matter. Like you can simply just put it anywhere. So it works well with the fact, even though the tracking might be flawed, you can still get the really good experience out of it. So another key feature of this is if you're trying it out, this feature also has this filter also has sound included on it, so it's also possible to manipulate sound or to create effects with sound on it. So that's also something to keep in mind. The next example, I don't want you to try this one out because you're not going to be able to do it, but it's this example from a town called Udmurtia in Russia, where they've created this this filter to highlight a monument that they have in there to create this augmented reality experience. The problem here is that these platforms, they're built, like the image tracking function is only made for 2D images, so not for 3D objects. So if you're going to be on the spot experiencing this and trying to make this filter work, most likely you're going to need to be from a specific position, from a specific point of view, with a specific lighting setting, so it might not work precisely, although it can be quite a cool feature as well. But this is on, so this is the image tracker. Like I've sent this to you on the PDF, so you can give it a try afterwards. But yeah, don't be too hopeful. There was some hit and a miss a little bit. But anyways, another use case within industry can be this one, for example, where using that green screen effect that we talked about earlier on, you can change the person's background to be a 360 photo so that it can give you that look of making you look like you're in Versailles or something. So yeah, they can change the background. As we spoke before, like games are also a possibility. The one from McDonald's was that good example, but this one is also a pretty cool one. Where, for example, you have to avoid the hands, so you can't touch them, as you should in real life now. And you control this by tilting your phone around. So as I said before, like you can have these different, these engines, they can track certain functions that you do, and then apply them, have you manipulate the virtual world. In this case is to move a hand. But this other example is, for example, by nodding your head, you can control a bike in that game. This is also a pretty cool game if you want to give it a try later on. So I would encourage you to do it. And last but not least, this is also, we've been working with different event venues, in this case was Epsilon, to, for example, sponsor and promote their Fellspeisning events. So this is like the get-together events where they get to eat together at Epsilon. And in order to promote this, their events, like these Fellspeisning events, we created this filter. When you open up your mouth, you start having a lot of food coming into it, and then it's going to ask the other person, like when you send this to the other person, it's going to appear like they're like, should we eat at Epsilon? So it's more like an invitation to the community, inviting other people like to this social factor, like of sharing it around. So yeah. And so yeah, this brings us to distribution of AR filters. So I think that it's also interesting to look into how Epsilon, for example, did this, and yeah, and also how we do these. Usually at KHORA, like, so when you upload augmented reality filters on Instagram, they're going to start living on this new section over here, like that is dedicated for AR filters, like this section with smiley icons that we saw before. So if you go, for example, into KHORA VR page, right now, like in our page, you can just scroll around and see a lot of different filters in there. So that's all of our work. So that's where the filters will live on. When you upload these, like this is the backend, like you upload them to the Spark AR hub, and you can make an effect active or inactive, depending on the season. For example, you might not want to have your Halloween glasses on during Easter, for example, but you can also have the really cool thing is that you can also have a preview link. So you can use this link to attach it, for example, to different posts, like through sponsored posts or organic posts as well. And this is how you're going to get your message across and how you want to draw attention to the filter itself. So when it comes to organic posts, like we can create stories on your Instagram page. So if you have more than 10,000 followers, you can create a story, and in the end, using that URL link, you can add it here to the story. And when people swipe up, they can try, like the filter turns on immediately. So it is a possibility. But if you don't have the 10,000 followers, what you can do is ask people to follow your page by pointing up there on the top screen, because when you take a video and photo and you publish it right away, you're gonna get like this tagline on the top saying, for example, Sérgio was using Virtual Explorer from KHORA. And if you click on the Virtual Explorer, you're gonna be able to try on the filter yourself. So that's why like not a lot of people still know about this function. As people start playing around more and more with these filters, they become more aware, but it's always good to mention that. Another really good way to do this and to create stories around this is by, for example, creating a step-by-step instruction on how to find the filter on your profile. So, and then, for example, put it up on the page highlights so that when people visit you, they can simply start seeing all the different stories around it, so they can see how to access it. So this is how Epsilon did theirs. So it's pretty intuitive and pretty, yeah, there's no way of missing it. So I think this is also pretty good at sort of onboarding people into how to use these augmented reality filters and engage them on your page. Now, still using that URL link, you can use it to put it up on different campaigns, and for example, and to create adverts around it. So you can create Instagram stories of videos or photos, asking people to engage with it. So you'll have on the learn more the link to the filter, so people are able to try it out. You're also capable of putting it on Instagram news feeds, and here, like on the learn more, like you're going to be able to try it out. Yeah, also on Facebook. So I think that it's important that you keep this on mobile, because people on the computers, they're not going to be able to try them out. So it is important to keep that in mind. Now, another new feature from Facebook is augmented reality ads. So when you upload these filters, Spark AR asks you if you want to upload it as Facebook or for Instagram or for Facebook ads. When you upload it as Facebook ads, when you're setting up the campaign, you're going to be able to include a new feature like an augmented reality effect. So this is something very new, like that they've only started launching to different partners here in Scandinavia, and back in December. We were one of the first ones to be able to try it out. And the way that this works is, for example, you're scrolling through your Facebook feed, and for example, suddenly you see that Michael Kors has just released a new pair of sunglasses. And then you have like this, I mean, it might be a video or a photo, and then you have like this overlay asking you to tap to interact. When you click on it, the filter turns on automatically. So your face camera turns on, and suddenly you can see yourself with the new sunglasses. You can even, for example, select different shades and see what suits you best. And then right away here, like on the bottom, you're going to have the link to the e-commerce page, so that you can actually buy the goggles or the sunglasses right away. So yeah, it's another and more intuitive call to action kind of campaign, and yeah, a cool new feature. As I said before, like one of the first examples that we worked on was with the sleep hotels, where we created this filter that made you look tired, and yeah, and then like you put on a face mask, and once you nod your head up, like you're simply fresh and good to go. So the idea here was basically to give you the idea that sleep hotels, like at sleep hotels, you can get a good night's sleep. So we tested this out in December. Like we had no idea what we were going to get. This is a collaboration that we made with CPC Social, where basically they run Facebook advertising campaigns, and they were in charge of actually distributing this across the internet. And they were able to reach like 186,000 people with, and out of those, like people spent on average like 11 seconds with the filter, engaging with the content. So that was pretty all right for us, not even knowing what to expect. On Snapchat though, I think that it has a lot more of this organic feeling behind it than just sponsoring it. So I think Snapchat like also is tailored for another type of demographic, a much younger one than, for example, Instagram or Facebook. I think Instagram and Facebook, they're a little bit more global and perhaps like 25 years older. Snapchat like covers the other end as well. Now on Snapchat, when you upload the filter to it, you upload it directly through Lens Studio. So that's the engine that you use to build these experiences. And when you upload it, you're going to get like that QR code that we were talking about before, that yellow one. Perfect. So, and then you can just simply use this QR code and just put it on posters, videos, even packaging, for example. The really good thing about it is that pretty much like the Snapchat users, most of them, they know that when they see that code, they can use Snapchat to unlock a filter. For example, Chiquititas, the bananas ones, like they had that in there. On every single banana. Like it was a campaign for a while ago. But besides that, like besides the code, you can also get like a URL link that you can then, like for example, create sponsored posts on other platforms as well, put it on newsletters and so on. So it is possible to do that. Yeah, but this is where I think that it has a lot more potential to become more organic in that sense. So when people take a photo or a video with your Snap filter, you can basically, when you send it to a friend and that friend receives it, when they're opening it up, you're going to be prompted right away with a question. you want to unlock this filter for the next 48 hours. So for the next 48, most of them, like, they just simply click yes, because it's just natural. Like, why not? Like, it's not going to occupy more space. I'm not going to download a big bunch of data. So either ways, it's not going to do harm. So they click on it, and then after they see the video or the photo of the friend, they simply can just start playing around with the filter. So that's why I'm thinking, like, that's why I'm saying that this has a lot more potential of becoming a little bit more organic and a little bit more viral in that sense. And on Snapchat, we have, there's also the possibility of sponsoring your filter inside of Snapchat as an awareness campaign. So yeah, keep that in mind. Another really good, yeah, I'll talk about that later, because this can also be applied for both Instagram and Facebook. But either ways, a really popular Snapchat ad was this one from Taco Bell on Cinco de Mayo, that in the US, they were able to reach 224 million people, and on average, people spent like 24 seconds just making their heads into a taco. So yeah, it's just kind of wacky. But yeah, it's one of the most successful campaigns on Snapchat. So what I was going to tell you before is that, like, another way to perhaps like also distribute and raise awareness for your filter is to work, for example, with influencers, and make sure that they also try to use your filter and ask their people to, their followers to use the filter. So it often becomes like a good strategy as well. And lastly, like, I want to finish off with this last note on all these platforms. So when it comes to uploading these filters to these platforms, they often require this review time. So on Instagram, it can be up to 10 business days. On Snapchat, it can be up to 3 business days. So Snapchat is way faster at all these things than Instagram is by default, in general. And Instagram is also a little bit more uptight. So when it comes, for example, to creating a filter, you need to keep it very mild, like usually for 13-year-olds, like family-friendly kind of filter. And then they can also be quite uptight in terms of the usage of logos and text in it. So you need to sort of incorporate it naturally in the filter and in the effect in order to be approved. So it's something definitely worth to consider. So yeah, I'm just gonna see if there's any questions or some food for thoughts. All right, 2 questions. So what is the payment model for putting filters up on either Instagram or Snapchat? They're free. You can publish these Instagram filters and Snapchat filters for free on their platforms. Now, it can become like what's expensive or what you need to pay is for perhaps like the production time, which you can do, for example, in-house if you have the resources to do that, or you can outsource it, for example, to a production company like us. And then what you need to think about is also perhaps like the budget for raising awareness to the filter and to distribute it out there. So yeah, those are the things that you need to keep in mind. Usually, when it comes to the first part of us, like in terms of like the prices that we often put out for a filter is roughly like 10,000 to 40,000, depending on the complexity of the filter. So yeah, those are the prices, the price ranges that we're working with. So how long would it take us to make such a filter? So usually we can be quite fast, like can take us like around a month time to develop these, or even less, depending on depending on how detailed and how complex it is. At the same time, usually we give this buffer time because Instagram, especially in Instagram, like they have this so they have this review process. So it's something worth to keep in mind, because if we have to reiterate a lot on the filter as we go along, like then yeah, it can take up some more time, because they need to review the filter every time that you upload it. So this can take up to 10 business days. So but usually, like when we have to go from the client to start working on them, and yeah, and just get it out there and get it published, like we can take up around like a month, 3 weeks to do it. Okay, next question. What will be the biggest improvement on AR? Is it the camera for tracking and processing, or the processing power for graphics? So I think, to be honest, I think that it's, are we talking about headset-based augmented reality here, or are we talking about like on the phone? Okay, for phones. Then in that case, I would say definitely like processing. No, when it comes for the phones, and especially for social media, most of these, they are actually going to be very much dependent on the engine itself, like on these platforms. So for example, even if you can compare it, like I think Snapchat works much better, like in terms of floor tracking, Snapchat works much better than Instagram and Facebook's engine. And that's just simply how their algorithms are working, and how they have developed the app. Like Snapchat has been out there like for years with these AR features, so it has a little bit more leverage than and has collected a lot more data and a lot more it has tracked a lot more floors than what Facebook and Instagram has. So so it is normal that, for example, the tracking on Snapchat can be a little bit better than on Facebook and Instagram. But I believe that in time, like these algorithms, they will become a lot more accurate and a lot more precise. Yeah, so that's point number one. However, processing power within the phones, and also, for example, the SDKs that the phone manufacturers also deliver, it's going to be crucial. So it has more to do with that. So every time that you update, for example, your iPhone, or every time that you update your AR core, I want to say, because like on Android, like if you want to download an app, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll have AR core installed. Yeah, it will just ask you to download as a separate app. But anyways, AR core is for Android. AR kit is for iOS. But anyways, on iOS, like when you're updating the system, it updates like the code for AR kit. When on Android, you need to do it sort of manually. And but every time that you're updating these, like your phone sort of becomes a little bit much better at tracking. So I believe that like those things like are what's going to be a little bit much better, and what's going to give a little bit more improvement. However, there's been like a big step up from Apple on in regards, for example, to the latest iPad that they released. The latest iPad that they've released, it is equipped with a LiDAR sensor. And that LiDAR sensor is what they use, for example, on smart vehicles, like smart cars that drive by themselves. And they're capable of pinpointing with much more accuracy and detecting surfaces around your surroundings. There are a couple of videos out there on YouTube that you can see of this technology in action, and with the latest iPads, and it works quite smoothly, like this tracking feature, especially because, like, even for example, if you cover the camera and if you start like walking around with it, it will still sort of memorize its position and will memorize where things were. So, for example, it can detect where I mean, it doesn't know that it's a table, but it knows that there was a surface in there that was a table per se. So even though it's like the camera is muffled. So yeah. So there's a lot of small things like that are all working together, sort of. Yeah, you should. I can also try and find a link for you, like so that you can take a look into it. Cool. Any other questions? All right. Cool. Then let's just make it into a wrap. So this is our time, and if you have any questions that might pop up after the webinar, like, you're more than welcome to send me an email and just ask away. Or if you have any thoughts about like doing any sort of AR projects or AR filters, you're welcome to just shoot your ideas to me, and would be happy to help you out. So yeah, thanks for joining us.